Good morning, everybody. I would like to title this particular video Rock Ballads from the 80s and what that actually means for society. Now, anytime you're looking at the written word, whether you're talking about the Bible or pieces of literature or music or poetry, you have to understand that there's something about those words that are actually building our society and building our consciousness. And so when I was growing up, I'm a child of the 80s. I was, growing up. So I got the tail end of some of the music from the 80s. And of course, probably the time that I was the most aware was when, the music of the 90s. And of course, that was before YouTube and that was before a lot of the MP3s and so on and so forth. So you kind of got the music that you got. You didn't have a huge, wide selection of music like you do today. But I remember when I was young, I would go roller skating. And when I was roller skating, these tremendous rock ballads were playing. And, I was just so enthralled with this incredible music. And to me, that's what love was all about. These incredible pieces of poetry that were coming through. So how I saw romance and love and everything else was really framed with this idea that what these men were writing about and how they felt about women or a specific woman in their life was basically what romance was about. And so, I think that, and it wasn't just me, I think that there was a whole generation of people who had a lot of those same kind of thoughts. That being said, I have noticed that there is a real lack of love poetry towards women on the scene today. If I were to pick some of the more recent, really, really powerful love ballads that I have seen, I would have to say John Legend, who sang a beautiful, beautiful song for his wife, who he loved and appreciated and valued so much that he actually, he married her. She's still in his life to this day. So you see that song, and you also see in Blake Shelton, some of his love poetry towards Gwen Stefani is, mind-bogglingly beautiful. But if you were really, really, really to think of the scene today of music and how much is really a powerful love ballad, you probably wouldn't be able to find many more songs besides that, where it's coming from a man to a woman. And so you almost see a strange tapering off from the love ballads that we see in the 80s all the way until now, 2022. And what we see playing on radios and the kind of poetry that we're hearing has a lot more to do with the frustration that men have with specific women. It's a lot more of the sort of frustrations that they have with women or their bitterness towards women and so on and so forth. And I think that this is really causing a lot of problems. And I can't really say how the decline has happened from the 80s until now. If we really can judge a society based off of their art, which I really believe that we can, why is it that in the 80s, these incredibly masculine rock star men were able to express a kind of tremendous love poetry and really putting words of love on women in a way that we're really not seeing today? I would have to really, really mention that not only do we see a decline of love poetry towards women, we're also seeing a tremendous increase in sort of all women are the same. You can replace one with the other just as well, one pretty face with another. You don't really bring so much to my life. I don't value the things that you have done for me or the things that you have said to me or the ways, anything else like that. Besides John Legend and besides Blake Shelton. I also really want to bring up, what is his name? Oh, gracious, because there was a really, really beautiful song, a beautiful love song. Anyway, maybe I'll think of it in just a second, but it's called Lonely, and it's by a rapper, but I'm not entirely sure where. I can't remember what his name is that actually sang that song. So there are some really special songs even to this day, but there's still a definite shortage, especially when you're considering the incredible passion that was really being sang in the 80s versus now. And why is this important? Well, because love is really built on a few things. True love. You know, sometimes people get together out of necessity. Sometimes they get married because they feel pressure to, or they think the person fits into their life, or maybe they're pressured into it in some way, shape, or form. But really, true love is really about choice. It is that we are exposed to thousands of people every single day, and we're not just looking to get somebody because we're lonely and we want to just not be lonely anymore. Hopefully, what we're doing is we are brushing against people and we see something about them that really stand out from everybody else. There's some attribute about them that you so value that they become your chosen one. It becomes exclusive. There's something about them that brings such value to your life that you really don't want to let that go, and you don't want to let the person go. And that's really what gives you longevity, and that's really what builds incredible senses of intimacy. So when you listen to the rock ballads of the 80s, you definitely hear all of these factors where men are showing not only that there is a specific woman who brings something to his life that is very valuable to him, that he appreciates very much, but if she walks away or if he walks away from her, he can't get over it because there's just something about her that he really loves and that he really misses. And so we definitely see where this confirmation with words through poetry is really building women up. And I would have to say that in society right now, there are a lot of female poets that really express tremendous passion towards men. But I would have to say that there's something in collective man who is tapering off and withholding those kinds of words of affirmation, and maybe even refusing to allow women to have that place in their life, or even perhaps they themselves have found other things that they find to be a greater priority rather than love. And so this is a real issue, and this is a real problem. And I would even have to say that Valentine's Day as well. You know, there's a tremendous amount of resentment towards Valentine's Day, and I think there's a lot of stress with men when it comes to Valentine's Day because there is pressure. And women sometimes do put a lot of almost kind of a mean pressure for men to perform, and I don't really believe in that. But I do think that Valentine's Day is just a wonderful opportunity to being able to show the person that you're with that you really love them, and to try to remember maybe in a whole year you have tapered off on your romance of either your wife or your wife to her husband, and that you can step up and do something a little extra special, whether it's something more intimate, something that you might not really want to maybe share out in public, but or some ways of really showing the person that you're with that they matter and that they really bring value to your life, because this is one of the most important aspects of love. If a person doesn't feel exclusively loved by you or exclusively appreciated by you, there will not be the same intimacy. There just won't be. If women have the impression that you can just kind of leave them or drop them, or that they don't really bring anything to your life, they're not going to feel very good in that relationship, and they'll be constantly looking for somebody who does. And I think that's one of the reasons why women have a tendency to really pressure men into things like Valentine's Day is because they're trying to say, look, I want to know that I'm valuable to you, and this is the way that you show it to me. This is the socially acceptable code that you show that you really love me and that you appreciate me. And I think that there's almost a rebellion in men who say, I don't want to show that. I resent showing any kind of real exclusive appreciation or value for my wife. And of course, sometimes that comes both sides, where women refuse to show that as well. And somebody has to be brave enough to do that first. And so that's really my thoughts on that, is that if you really, really, really want somebody to love you, especially a woman, love poetry is almost incredible. It is incredibly important. And that love poetry should somehow express an exclusive appreciation for just that person, some quality that they have that you wouldn't be able to find in anybody else, and some humility in being able to show that and fight for it, because it takes real humility to do that. And I really think that there are so many people who might have gotten the impression these days that, well, actually, if you really, really want somebody to love you, then you have to let them know that you're so wanted by so many other people, and that you could pick anybody, and maybe if you ignore the person a little bit, or maybe if you have to stay the superior one, the one who always gives, the one who always does, the one who always is just always in the superior position, and that you never give credit to the person that you're with for anything, then you're basically killing their love for you. So, and then of course, if you're correcting people, you have to be careful, because correcting people is also a form of showing that you see not just the qualities in a person, but the problems with the person. And so even correcting a person without proper care can backfire on you, can really kill a person's love. But then if you're overcorrecting and criticizing and putting a person down, and you're never giving them credit for the good that they do, you will absolutely kill their love. That person might stay with you because maybe it's socially beneficial or financially beneficial, or maybe because they just want somebody for that particular time. But the love will never, ever, ever, ever be there. There just won't be love. Not unless you have some tremendous attribute yourself that can off-play that, but probably not. So if you're a person like any other human being who craves love, the way that you do it is always through words of affirmation. And of course, correction is important, but it has to be as limited as possible. And overcorrection will guarantee that you are not loved. You will not be loved. Like I said, you might rope somebody in some other way through control or violence or abuse, or taking away their power or their monetary gains, or trying to somehow assert an unhealthy, abusive control over them. But they will never love you. So, and I think all of us, the greatest pursuit any of us could have is love.